If you escaped a zombie outbreak in South Korea only to be sent right back into the heat to retrieve lost loot, what would you do? Oh yeah, we're doing this. Jung Seok, I'm just kidding. I'll do a little bit better. Young So was a Marine before the outbreak. Now a refugee and barely scraping by in Hong Kong, he receives an offer he can't refuse from the mob. I'm gonna break down the mistakes I made, what you should do, and how to beat Unit 631 in Train to Busan Peninsula. We start out following the zombie outbreak from the original Train to Busan. Our main character, Young So, a South Korean Marine Corps officer, is attempting to get out of Incheon with his sister, brother-in-law, and nephew. As I covered within my original video, surviving this, especially when living in a large metropolitan city, is extremely difficult to pull off. Fortunately, Young So has the training, the connections for an early warning, and most importantly, the kind of plot armor that can only be achieved through generating excessive amounts of hopium from a loyal fan base, and ultimately crushing their dreams.
So worth it. So worth it.
Our Marine protag has taken his family to a military extraction point, a boat to be precise, headed for Japan. Young So, being an officer himself, gets his CO to wait for him to make it there.
널 데리고 가고 있어. 거의 다 왔으니까 조금만 기다려.
That's awesome, and also very fortunate. Realistically, if you're not there on time, they're leaving you. Young So expertly channels his inner Brad Pitt instead. They encounter a bloody stranger, with his wife and infant daughter asking for help. Young So does what anyone with their brains firmly attached to their head should do, and leaves them. It's cold, but like I even said in my original Train to Busan video and many other zombie videos, people are 100% going to hide their bite wounds. It's just not a risk we're taking. End of discussion. You could argue wife and kid this, what if it's not his blood, that, etc. It doesn't matter. Not happening. Fortunately, our protagonist sees it the same way. We cut to an interview on TV where we get the much desired backstory from the original movie, for it's just swept under the carpet. Busan was a safe haven, but it isn't anymore. Also, the Korean government collapsed within a day, and North Korea managed to get this thing under control somehow, using his, in this case, privilege as a military officer. Young So's family makes it past the checkpoint and onto the boat. Right off the bat, you can tell that while the checkpoint outside is heavily staffed, inside the ship, almost zero precautions were taken. Young So walks over to meet his family in one of the cabins. I'm not sure if this was meant to function as a way to separate survivors, but I found it beyond disturbing that they didn't implement a proper quarantine procedure here for the survivors. As we know, the virus spreads super fast, transforming an infected individual in under a minute tops. Not posting guards in each and every cabin, or at least by the entrances to each and every cabin, is dumb, at least to prevent infected or panicking survivors who are about to be infected from fleeing to the other survivors on board. This is some serious negligence here. Another Marine tells Young So that they're being rerouted to Hong Kong instead of Japan. Trying to figure out why, he leaves to talk to those in charge, while a clearly infected passenger starts tweaking, which literally nobody seems to notice. See, this is why guards in each and every room is important. This is why quarantine procedures matter. How did this guy even make it past that checkpoint without turning, when we know that everyone starts turning within a minute or two at most? I felt kinda surprised to hear in this movie that North Korea did better, but seeing this, I can definitely understand why. Hell, even the passengers don't seem to notice the guy turning. I mean, I don't know. Did you not all just escape from the middle of a crowded city absolutely chock full of these things? Dudes making growling sounds and convulsing involuntarily. That is a zombie about to strike, and every single person in that cabin would realistically know this. However, if you're in that room when this goes down, see this guy tweak and don't immediately bolt, you're dead. Even when this child gets within inches of the now clearly zombified person, nobody around him even notices, until this guy backflips onto his feet. Young So's dealing with the usual military bureaucracy when he's informed of the breach in containment, if you can call it that. This happens nearly a whole minute and a half after this guy was already visibly turning. Nonetheless, Young So immediately jumps into action for the sake of his family. Like a true Marine warrior, Young So runs toward the sound of danger with his gun up. I wholeheartedly understand not wanting to leave your sister and nephew, but I counted at least another 5 people there with you that could have had your back in this. Young So's carrying a P226 here, rather than the K5, which is the actual standard issue sidearm for commissioned officers in the South Korean Marine Corps. This means he's got 15+1 bullets here, rather than the 13+1 he would have with the K5. Now, he could be doing this all of half a minute later with backup packing K2 assault rifles, chambered in 5.56, but I get it. Your family needs you, and every second matters. He pops a lone zombie with 2 loud shots at point-blank range, without any PPE, before proceeding to the cabin he was at earlier, which is full of mid-transformation zombies. Great. He tries to talk his sister out of staying with his now infected nephew. She's not budging. I can't even fathom how hard this must be, but what on earth could possibly compel you to walk into this room? Sidearm or not, there is no way you can outreact all of those zombies at the same time and reload in time without getting bitten. My solution here is cold, but effective. Close the door on all of them and let nature take its course. Seriously, if she's already sitting there in the middle of all those infected, holding an infected person, she's either A, infected herself already, which means I'm not going in there, B, about to be infected before I can even reach her anyway, which means I'm not going in there, C, going to get me killed trying to save her, even though she's nearly 100% a goner already, which means I'm not going in there. Would it be easy? Obviously not. Is it the right play to make if you want to live? Absolutely yes. Instead, Young So sits there with his sister crying, surrounded by zombies, while she refuses to leave, even as everyone starts coming at them, with Young So only barely making it out himself. Backup finally arrives for the cleanup. I guess it's better late than never, but what the guys? We cut to 4 years later.
Yes, 4 years.
In Hong Kong, to some unsavory characters walking the streets at night. They've come to greet our old friend Young So, who now has some kicked long hair, since the Marine Corps' grooming standard cannot hold him prisoner any longer. Young So's not happy about being awoken from his nap, and wakes up swinging. Before being told they're not here to beat him up, they're messengers. Not that he cares though. At the gangster HQ, he meets his brother-in-law, Chulman. He's also introduced to the stereotypic English-speaking Italian-American mob boss, who for some reason is running operations in Hong Kong. Mafia Man heard a rumor that people are going back into South Korea, tired of living in the poverty out here no doubt, to loot all the nice stuff people left behind during the evacuation. Young So thinks these people are insane, in spite of Mafia Man paying off the forces guarding the exclusion zone around the border. I can't say I disagree. This is the whole 28 weeks later story all over again, except there's no gullible BS wherein people are convinced it's safe to return to ground zero, like these idiots. These people are going in knowingly and willingly to escape the conditions of being a refugee from a nation that officially no longer exists. Mr. Stereotype also tells our two brothers that they already had some successful excursions out there, and even recently secured a truck with $20 million in cash just sitting in it, which is what this dream team needs to collect. Yeah, because the previous driver not making it to the drop-off is a successful excursion.
So you might as well make your own future.
You see where he's going with this, though. He does raise a valid point about the state of limbo the refugees have been left in, legally speaking, by the international coalition that contained this mess. 2.5 million US per head is not half bad from that perspective. Besides, it's not like they've got much to lose. Our star duo visit a bar to drown their sorrows, which is basically just Chulman trying to persuade Young So.
타고 들어가서 뭐 어려울 거 있냐?
A lot of things. For starters, you're expected to venture into Incheon Port and make your way over to the Mokdong district of Seoul, which is a cozy hour-long drive. Even if you're being sent in with a nice up-armored vehicle, which I highly doubt, how do you know that the roads aren't blocked? If you'd want to walk that distance to avoid detection, or because the roads are too jammed, you'd be taking hours to even get to the truck, as we're talking an 18-mile distance. By that time, the sun would come up again, and the whole stealth op would be blown anyway. Also, what is it with this nighttime is better because the zombies can't see? It's been 4 years. Decomposition and a million other factors would be at play here. Normally, that would outright put these shamblers down for good, as I discussed in Dawn of the Dead. At the very least, this should guarantee that their vision is nowhere near as good as the non-infected adult, regardless of night or day. Also, it's said and demonstrated a lot of times in this movie, these things are attracted to sources of light. Guess when you don't need to carry one of those around? When it's not night, and you're not beaming away your position to every shambler and potential survivor in your immediate vicinity, especially if you might have to do most of your trip on foot. Bold move to assume you'll never have to illuminate anything along your path for this entire excursion. Does daytime, in contrast, not make you infinitely more vulnerable to a band of survivors? Yes. But so does going at night. At the moment, you also have no reason to believe there's any sort of legitimate threats out there of the human variety, since it's pretty much a barren wasteland. You do have plenty of reasons to assume that zombie threats will be present instead, so I vote for doing this in the daytime. We can sneak past the Coast Guard under the cover of darkness and chill near the port until we can actually see what we're doing. Young So's still on the fence though. His brother-in-law calls him out for their shared survivor's guilt that they're both suffering and living like scum, and practically begs him to do this with them.
너도 괴롭잖아.
Valid point. Like I said, they really don't have all that much to lose anymore. Can't say my mind would be anywhere else, but get rich or die trying at this point either. Another customer starts proving Chol-min right almost immediately, treating these guys like vermin just because they're from the peninsula. Something which we now, having lived through 2020 and all, can verify is actually how people behave under these circumstances. Young So isn't having it. He sends his brother-in-law away to sober up and gives the owner of the establishment a stark reminder to keep their names out of his god mouth. Not gonna lie, the shot glass smashdown was an alpha move. Now fully convinced that he's better than this life, Young So joins the team for the expedition into the exclusion zone. The crew gears up, admittedly doing better than most comparable crews that we've seen in these types of movies, but I'm still finding this weak overall, 5 out of 10 at best. This is really similar to the Army of the Dead, in that we're working with people who have an enormous amount of resources and equipment at their disposal. Not to mention, we aren't working under the same kind of time constraint, with a pending nuke drop on our AO. Why is that important? Well, for one, none of us are even remotely close to ready for this. Sure, Young So can brawl like nobody else, definitely is a certified bad mofo, and has the training. However, it's been years since he's actually used any of it. At minimum, a week or two to freshen up and teach these other randoms some basic tactics and drills, plus appropriate use of their weapons and gear, and in general getting into some semblance of an acceptable physical condition. It's 20 mil the mobsters are already waiting for, and have been for quite some time. What's 7 days more gonna hurt? Besides, if they actually want this money, they probably know it's better to send a Marine, someone with a proven track record who's from the cities, better than any random untrained strangers, even with the prep time. That's the best bet for both parties here, hands down. Now for the actual gear. They've got suppressors, which is something I've dearly missed in just about every single zombie movie I've seen so far. That'll help take out the zombies without drawing in an entire horde. It'll likely still attract any zombies within the immediate area, as contrary to popular belief, suppressors don't entirely silence a shot like in the movies. They'll be significantly quieter, but not entirely without sound. As for the actual guns, an MP5 and any AR-15 style system, suppressed of course, are not bad options. I think this loadout could use some work, and of course, some PPE. Presuming we'd be granted our prep time, we could probably also pass along our gear wish list to the mobsters. After all, it's in their best interest too that we're successful. My personal picks for this op? I thought you'd never ask. For my primary, an AAC Honey Badger. It's ideal for suppressed use in close range, chambered in 300 blackout to make it even quieter. I'd include an IR laser to mark targets, as we've already got access to NVGs. Sight-wise, my personal favorite, the EOTech Holo Sight with a magnifier PVS-14 combo. This covers close and medium range engagements, at both night and day. For my secondary, any suppressed 9mm would do. I'm a pretty big fan of the Glock, so I'd probably personally opt for a G45, as it's suppressor ready with extended magazine capacity just in case. I'd also pack several 9-bang flaming grenades, as well as regular flashbangs to disorient zombies or humans, smoke grenades, and even 1 or 2 M67 frag grenades each for if things truly get desperate. If we have more carrying capacity left over, some explosives so we can rig up IEDs, insurgent style. I'd likely turn one of the crew, especially someone who can't shoot for shit, into an ammo and explosives mule, carrying a trusty old school Alice pack. This would be filled with additional mags, grenades, and even additional medical supplies or food. All they'd need is a sidearm, since we're pulling security for them throughout the entire op. We'd also want to at least be outfitted with a basic combat utility vest, along with a ton of added pouches. This would allow us to carry additional mags on ourselves, along with stuff like combat first aid kits. Plate carriers, with actual plates, rather than utility, likely wouldn't be my priority here. As I said, the likelihood of running into humans, much less those who could put up a professional military-grade encounter, is currently pretty much nil. I'd drop excess weight in favor of more mags and explosives. Now, for those who have already seen this movie, this would later turn out to be a poor decision. Nobody could know that at this point in the movie, though, so I'm playing with the info that I should have at this point. I'd also want us to, at the very minimum, be wearing face coverings of some sort. Face shields, provided they don't obscure vision too much, would keep bodily fluids out of our face. Also, some motorcycle pants and leather jackets could likely stop a bite from a zombie from fully breaking through. And finally, some comfortable, durable boots for the journey. Doing the above successfully, I'd also add in electric e-bikes or even regular bikes, like I suggested in my Zom 100 video. Walking that distance, as I pointed out before, is asking for death. Relying on a car still being operational is dumb as well. Besides, the roads may be jammed. An e-bike might be able to get through that without too much issue or noise, and you'd be able to scout out the path for the return journey. On the way back, you will be forced to at least have a portion of your crew in the truck for this all to work. Maybe you think all that's overkill, but why wouldn't we go full operator mode if we're up against God knows how many thousands of zombies? For all we know, this might be well over 100 grand of gear altogether, compared to 20 million, especially for ballin' gangsters in Hong Kong. It's not only a meager fraction of what the return on their investment will be, it's also probably not too hard for them to acquire the items on our wish list with their connections in the underground. The crew rows the rest of the way from the boat to the port. They're given 3 days to make things happen, which also sort of implies that they need to be able to hold out for up to 3 days. Easier said than done. They also have been given 2 sat phones by the thugs for checking in and calling for extraction. It's a good thing to have on hand though, you never know what's gonna happen. If nothing else, you could always use it for a last second before I turn zombie phone call to the Hong Kong PD with an incriminating tip against Mr. Mafioso, making sure he goes down with you. The team makes it into Incheon, and Chulman is pretty much losing his cool right off the bat. This is why you include a prep time. Yeah, not a good sign. They find a trusty old Kia with the key still in the ignition. Decide to cut their journey down by giving it a jump start. Bold move, because for all you know, there's blockades every mile on all roads that you cannot pass through. E-bikes would have made your guys' way in so much easier. The road even looks all messed up and in terrible shape. There's also the factor of car engine noise. Or, the plot gods have conveniently given you a clean path through all those cars for nearly an entire 20-mile distance. Because of course you're that lucky. Then, the god of plot convenience decided that wasn't enough, so the team pretty much lays eyes on what they think is the truck right away. Could it really be that easy though? Young So goes to explore, by himself with 3 people just staring at him from the car. How about dismounting, setting up some kind of perimeter with at least 1 person covering Young So, while the other 2 cover the opposite directions of the car? It's still a super exposed position altogether, but Beach just sitting there with her dick rifles in her hands. Young So gets jump scared by a bunch of zombies stuck in the ruins of the Seoul Station, where it all began in the first movie. Before running back to the car, the truck they spotted is actually not the right one. Looks like the plot gods have forsaken you too. But of course, not even a minute of driving later, the second truck they spot does turn out to be the right one. Again, pretty much zero situational awareness, so 3 people are now staring into the truck. Instead of setting up any kind of perimeter, have 1 guy check if this is all legit and then have the rest pull security so you don't get collapsed on. Instead, they just assume it's all good in the hood. don't even keep their voices down or anything, and all just gather around the front of the truck to all stare at the same zombie. Then, in an even bigger display of stupidity, Chulman climbs into the cabin over the dead driver without double tapping him or anything. What the hell? Just stab him through the eye socket with a knife to be sure. What is so hard about that? But instead, you guys are such dumb. What's even crazier is that they don't haul us away. For all you know, you now have a horde of zombies coming in a dead sprint towards you. Get out of there. They stand around and blankly stare at the horde as it approaches, before they finally peel back. Operator is hell, dude, but run. He shoots the cars nearby to set off several alarms. This can be done due to the fact that car alarms run off a separate battery in most cars, which may still be intact here. Then he just sort of stares at the zombies to make sure they actually go for the cars. What would you have done if they didn't? The dumb truck driver doesn't pay attention, so he hits another car, setting off an alarm next to him, which immediately draws in the horde. Danger close. Young So is still not moving. He stands still, shoots the crawl runner zombie, even turns his back on the herd before he finally thinks, I've been standing here for a literal full minute now. Maybe it's time to bounce. You're a Marine, Young So. Shoot and move. It's in your DNA. The squad mounts back up and GTFOs with the horde hot on their trail. They start celebrating just a tad too early here, as this is still an hour away from the Incheon port.
이거 완전 누워서 떡 먹겠구만.
I would say complacency kills here, but realistically, this dude just taunted the horde gods. That is an ambush that you have just stopped in the middle of. Just as the zombies start pouring in, Young So puts his training to use and forces the team to push through, as you should. Never stop in the kill zone. Normally, you'd push through and dismount once safe in something like a herringbone maneuver. Then, you'd suppress the ambush position from further out, while friendlies go for a flank. Obviously, that's not applicable here, as we don't know where any of this is coming from yet, and zombies don't carry rifles. So we can't suppress enemy shooters. Pushing through is still the play, but the problem is they're driving too fast for caution, with the zombies just piling up and plowing into the car. In our ideal scenario, with our ideal loadout, we could either throw an M67 out the window into a group of cars, hoping to distract the zombies or even create a little multi-car fire to keep them busy. Or you can shoot any of the cars you're driving past that are sitting a little further away from you to divert the zombies toward the other direction. That would require some very quick thinking though, but alas. I didn't even think I had to say it, but seatbelts, especially if you're Mad Maxing it out of there. No excuses for that, guys. Zombieland came out like 10 years before this outbreak. Miraculously, getting launched out of the truck didn't do much to our warrior king. But as he gets up, he sees the entire squad get annihilated, including Chulman. He picks up his MP5 and starts going to work on the zombies, but there's just too many. Chulman manages to lock himself into the back of the truck. Not ideal, but I mean, he was completely surrounded. Young So runs out of ammo, and because they barely took any mags, and nobody has a secondary, he's now forced to fight zombies hand to hand. Really not ideal. At the last second, an SUV comes in for the rescue. The car's being driven by a female teenage Asian Terminator,
살고 싶으면 타요.
saving Young So at the last second.
Oh, I want to be a potato!
Plot God's putting in overtime here, basically treating us to the Fast and the Furious style driving, or some straight up Secret Service maneuvering, which is a skill I guess most strangers just possess these days. This duo, who we later learn are sisters, definitely know their stuff. The driver shuts off the car as they enter a tunnel and coasts it to a stop, silently, while her little sister distracts the zombies with an RC car covered in flashy lights. Definitely not a bad idea. The range on these remotes might not be the best, but it'll do the trick. If you find a mall, you could just buy a heap of these, keeping at least a handful in the car with you on every trip as disposable zombie distractions. You could even, with my suggested loadout, turn these zombies into RC kamikaze drones by attaching some explosives to it for us to detonate as it pulls in the herd. It seems to more than do the trick though, clearing a path for them to continue their journey. Back in the truck, Shulman isn't having a good time still being surrounded by zombies. Fortunately, the people who set up the ambush come in for the rescue. Or... getting murdered by those zombies is gonna feel like a treat here in a second. Yep, I'm thinking so. These bandits were clearly after the truck. Shulman is still in the back and is being taken with them to their hideout. Judging by how they did our fellow squad member in, I think he's in for it. We cut back to young So, waking up in his savior's hideout. He's greeted by an old man. Doesn't seem to be all there, rambling on about the US Korea HQ having been in contact with him. This old geezer is Kim. He's the father of Min Young, who is the mother of the sisters who rescued us, Junie, aka Baby Driver, and the young Yoo Jin. Young So, upon meeting their mother, immediately realizes it's the woman from the beginning of the movie. Ooh, yeah, that's awkward. Let's just hope she doesn't recognize him. As he's held at gunpoint, we also learn who these bandits were. Unit 631, a rogue militia composed almost entirely of ex-South Korean army soldiers, initially dispatched to rescue trapped civilians. The D-bag who shish kebabbed our team member is Sergeant Hwang. They're basically the bad guys known to extort, kill, steal, and everything in between. They also apparently must have watched Dawn of the Dead, because they decided to hold up in an abandoned mall. Not a terrible idea, like I said in that video. The only downside is that others will come to the same conclusion and want the mall for themselves. But if you're a bunch of soldiers with plenty of guns, who cares? This place has everything. Decent security, defensible locations, supplies, weaponry, and of course, a small group of individuals who control all of these assets, practically enslave the people inside their compound, and even terrorize their own guys.
참치캔 아깝니?
아까운 게 아니라
Oh, they also organize free-for-all death matches with prisoners and zombies. Fun.
형님 살려주세요. 여기서는 많이
This colorful character sucking on a 1911 is their commanding officer, Captain So. He's just really tired of the apocalypse, basically.
뭐야 이거?
The soldier that was getting picked on by Sergeant D-Bag earlier, Private Kim, tells the captain about their latest haul. This pretty much immediately clues him in that whoever was transporting this useless money was probably taking it out of Korea, and boy does he want to take it out. Meanwhile, young So is having the same conversation, as both groups basically simultaneously realize they have to get what's in that truck. Speaking of the truck, how's Chilmin doing?
나 쟤한테 쪼꼬바 하나.
You are never doing good if people are placing bets on you in this kind of situation. If only he knew how messed up his day was about to become. He gets placed into a holding area with the other contestants. While Captain So manages to reach the gangsters on the sat phone from the truck, they basically give him the same offer as the squad earlier, meaning So can finally leave the correct way, even some cash for his troubles. Inside the mall, Chulmin is released from holding for his first fight. I wonder how this works. Oh, that's how. This is a tough one. Obviously, escaping is not the play. Bare-knuckle brawling zombies is bound to end badly for you, particularly since they'll just be multiplying in moments, outnumbering us even more so than before. This is a timed event though, and all we have to do is run out the clock. All I could say here is try to avoid the spotlights. Knowing these things have a weird obsession with light, throwing people from shaded areas into the spotlights, feeding them to the zombies is probably the only play. Even then though, they are going to turn and come for you, so you need to keep on your feet and keep moving. Chulmin is the only one from abroad here, meaning he almost certainly has the advantage of superior physical health plus nutrition on his side, versus the already exhausted, much weaker, malnutritioned cellmates that he's up against. It shouldn't be impossible to stay ahead of them, in human form anyway. Honestly though, strategized exceptionally well or not, it's an enclosed area where you're forced to face zombies half naked, unarmed. Luck is the only true way to make it out of there. With exactly that on his side, Chulmin survives day one of the zombie gladiator class, returning to his cage for a feast worthy of a winner. Judging by how they're practically fighting over food, I'd say nutrition's gonna be an uphill battle here. That means Chol-min is basically surviving on a timer. He can use his current superior physical fitness to throw all his opponents into the zombies each fight, but he's also therefore increasing the size of the opposing team by creating more zombies. And he's given anyone who he hasn't killed yet a reason to want to target him. If this is what their living standards are as prisoner warriors, then it's just a matter of time until he slips up or otherwise can't keep up with the physical demand of this lifestyle, both causing his death. Meanwhile, back at Young So's, they start working on a plan to retrieve the truck from within Unit 631's compound and exfil via the gangsters. Only Old Man Kim wants to stay put until the presumably fictitious Major Jane comes to rescue them.
할아버지, 우리 이사 갈 거니까 짐 싸요.
제인이 우리 구하러 때까지 여기 있어야 된다고.
I don't know, man. Korea US military HQ shouldn't realistically exist anymore, according to the story, so I'd be chalking this down to straight up demented rambling. Nothing worth taking seriously. He still decides to call in their plans to Major Jane, promising an exfil at the port. I doubt it, but whatever, Grandpa.
나간 노인네 무장한 군인이 지키고 있는 트럭을 빼내.
That's what I'm saying here. Even with our ideal loadout present from the start, and without losing any of it during the car flare situation, we'd likely still be seriously outgunned, out-equipped, and outnumbered here. Min Young pretty much just tells Young So to suck it though, and that she can't stay here any longer. And why is that exactly? I get the hope of an extraction is awesome and all, but from what I understand, you've held out in this wasteland for 4 years. Surely you still want your kids to live, right? I guess you can't expect people to think straight anymore after an apocalypse. Young So clearly doesn't like this, nor should he. Yujin delivers a revenge burn from her dead dad to Young So, which makes him feel guilty enough to join in on the fun.
하나 배구해줬어.
힘없는 사람 도와주라고 했어.
뚫린 길만 잘 찾으면 한 30분이면 갑니다.
Captain So and Private Kim are planning a similar play. Their main concern is getting past Sergeant Wong and his men undetected with the truck. Understandable, since Wong and his men seems to be in control of this place, rather than So, but Kim knows a way to distract the guards. You could always set up a sound or light trap on one end of the compound, or by the other exits or entries into the mall. This would create a zombie horde to force more attention towards that end of the compound, allowing you to slip out. The issue here is that these are soldiers, so I'd wholeheartedly expect them to still cover their sectors, even if 90% of their force is hauled to the opposite side of the compound. That's just standard procedure. Then again, it's also standard procedure in the Korean Marine Corps. Clearly, Young So never got that memo as an officer. So, maybe. You could also rig up an IED on one end of the compound, potentially even one strong enough to blow a hole through the perimeter altogether, and actually force all the troops into one location for defense. In any case, if you can reduce the amount of guards to just a handful on one end of the compound, especially in the midst of gunfire from the others taking care of the horde distraction you created, it wouldn't immediately seem suspicious if shots are then fired. Sergeant Huang would just assume it's zombies, and not discover the fire team he left in charge of this entrance to be dead until they either fail to check in on comms or come back after dealing with the horde and or breach on the other ends, finding all their guys dead and the main gate left wide open for good measure. Young So has a flashback to Min Young, begging for help with the baby Yujin. He feels guilty over his actions, and that he's the only one left from his entire family, as far as he knows. Fueled by the guilt, he decides to join their stealth op into Unit 631's compound.
부산 타러 가는 길에 당신 가족들 아이만이라도 태워달라.
당신 우리 애들한테 빚진 거야.
Young So also finally tells Min Young that he's the Marine officer that left them high and dry on the side of the road 4 years ago. Lucky for him, she's not mad about it. He's just one of the many people that ignored their cry for help. 31 cars to be precise. Now, I don't want to be a... but my earlier point was valid in spite of us now seeing more of the personality of the folks we refused to help. All 31 cars made the right call. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. She does, however, remind him that while he's not indebted to her in any way, her daughters did save him. Entitled much? Young So just wanted to survive, lady. The teams head out, first to the compound, then back to Incheon Port. Let's talk strategy from their perspective real quick. I think the easiest, simplest plan would be to abuse the collection of RC cars Yujin has, which she was already throwing a tantrum over, since she couldn't take them. What if she could take them though? And what if we could put them all to use? Everybody's happy. Great. Now to answer one viewer's comment from a few days ago, do you think researching this stuff will get you put on some kind of watch list? Well, generally no. This next bit, however, maybe, as it definitely sent me down the rabbit hole of researching technical details on how IEDs like that are made. I struggle to believe it would come across as normal if I said it was for my loyal followers on YouTube.
Here to talk about making a dirty bomb with stuff you can find in your kitchen.
So, RC car IEDs. For obvious reasons, YouTube's not going to allow me to elaborate on how this would work because, well, you know. All I will say is that several insurgent factions and terror organizations have successfully deployed RC cars that have functioned as remote control IEDs. We're talking Iraq, Afghanistan, even a planned but never executed case in Luton in the UK. If we had our ideal loadout, or even just some household chemicals we could mix to create poisonous gas, for instance, we could attach either chemical or explosive weaponry to these RC cars. Then we deploy them around the perimeter of the mall, have them bring several hordes of zombies straight to the enemy's doorstep. This would come with either a bang hard enough to blow holes in their perimeter on several fronts, or a gas attack that's going to be really hard to handle without the correct gear. Missed opportunity, genuinely.
Welcome to
Also, to the FBI, I swear that research was just for YouTube. Minyoung tells Junie to leave her if she's not back in time.
준이야, 해뜰 때까지 엄마 안 오면.
Now again, we're not utilizing the whole team, which is even more important when we're up against easily 30 times as many people as we have. Junie is an incredible driver. Yujin can, as I mentioned, definitely make herself useful with the RC cars. Hell, the little psycho might even enjoy it altogether. It's literally real life Left 4 Dead with explosives. That gives you a vehicle that stays mobile around your AO and is able to provide intel on zombie or enemy troop movements. Plus, it can provide extraction. All the while, Yujin would be attracting zombies and or weakening enemy defenses, allowing Minyoung and Young So to sneak in with significantly more ease. Hell, Old Man Kim can even be a window gunner in the back seat. This is the earlier truck check scene all over again. Use your team, people. If not, what was even the point in taking your girls with you? So you could leave them sitting in the open? Young So and Minyoung dismount and head into an underground parking garage. This leads to an emergency exit concealed by old cars that Minyoung discovered when she still lived in the compound. Apparently, Unit 631 doesn't know of its existence, as they very easily make it inside. They move through the compound swiftly and silently. Like I said, a distraction outside the gate right now would be absolutely superb. Or hell, if we add our loadout, we could even throw some flashbangs or M67s in different directions right here and now to create chaos and confusion. However, unbeknownst to them, Captain So is working on something very similar, yet very different.
그래서 오늘 밤은
He basically lies and says that Sergeant Huang, who didn't at any point before this check what's inside the truck he stole and brought back as loot, found a truck full of food, enough to last them all an entire month or so. And of course, being the generous officer that he is, means he wants to celebrate with the rest. So there will be a fight to the last man unlimited game. Good luck, Chulman. He's also handing every last man a load of supplies, since there's extra. He tells them to enjoy it like there's no tomorrow. Because obviously, once he's out of there with the truck, he doesn't give two shits anymore if they all starve come tomorrow. He's quite quit as their CO a long time ago already. Somehow, having developed super special Korean Army mind-reading capabilities, Wong just magically knows that something's up with the captain.
좋아할 게 아니고 제 약 먹은 것 같은데?
I don't know, man. Maybe it's all the whiskey, talking to pictures of models on his wall, and sucking his god 1911's barrel. Yeah, I'd say he's been off for a while, dude. Wong enters So's office. This obviously screws up So's distraction for his sweet escape, but I don't think he actually realizes just how dangerous Wong truly is.
Johnny Walker Blank Rabbit.
This man is beyond unhinged, but in my opinion, he just acts like a fool when in reality, he has great detection abilities. He figures that something's off because So refused to even give them smaller snacks earlier in their survival run, and now he's overly generous. That's a dead giveaway here as well. If you act wildly out of character, it's more likely to be picked up on. You could have just given them something extra, so it doesn't appear too crazy, along with extended games. Maybe not even 24 hours, just long enough for him to escape. I get he saw no harm in this, but flipping from nothing is permitted to everything is permitted overnight makes it pretty clear that, at minimum, you're getting ready to take the easy way out.
사장님 저
Private Kim enters the captain's room, trying to meet up for the escape. So uses this distraction to arm himself behind his back when Huang turns around, just in case he's gonna need it. I'd argue you could even just dome him all together right here, as he's not paying attention and his reaction time clearly won't be fast enough. The others won't hear it because of the noises of the deathmatch, and you won't have to deal with disposing of him afterwards, nor can he then mess up your escape. It doesn't seem like anyone else will take over the hunt for our scalps like Huang certainly would. Huang hears So chamber around behind his back, causing him to think on his feet and purposely misinterpret the situation as Kim and So having become a couple.
그런 사이야?
아우 나 미안해.
Smart, but if I was So here, I still wouldn't let him leave. You know this dude's a danger to you both, and many others too. You've got these set up here to end this in GTFO. Don't hesitate. Or just underestimate the guy once again.
Hard time. Okay?
Sure you're not gonna regret that later? Back in the Overwatch vehicle, Eugen spots an entire horde of zombies making their way straight to the compound. Meanwhile, Young So and Min Young finally get to the truck full of money, and again, split up with nobody standing guard. Holy sh*, Young So, you are a Marine. Look how easily Private Kim manages to intrude on your party. At least you're lucky she actually noticed this guy, since you weren't covering your sector. Kim doesn't even care anymore. He just wants out. He tells them about the other sat phone and about Chol Min still being alive. When Kim has to speech check a sentry, Young So hears that his brother-in-law has become some kind of fighter and that he's actually working hard to survive. This obviously makes Young So want to go help. Min Young tells him to stop hesitating, like he's been doing this whole movie, and get going. Okay, that hesitating stuff was me, but still, this isn't the greatest idea. You're splitting up again, and you're leaving Min Young 1 versus 2 in a close-range situation where her rifle's barrel is a serious liability in itself. A better play here, while also very cold, would be to just honestly leave Chol Min. We'd have to wade through God knows how many soldiers to even reach him. It sounds like this is an entire Korean army company, based on what we see and hear throughout the scenes in the compound. That means anywhere from 50-odd soldiers, if their numbers are already heavily depleted, to a potential 200 or more. Again, just not happening. Veto. Sorry, homie, but if I leave you, at least I won't be reminded of my sister every single day anymore. Plus, we all live to GTFO. Nonetheless, Young So goes for the rescue play. Moments later, So finally comes to find Kim, seeing him held at gunpoint instead. Channeling his inner John Wick, So expertly plays off the, "Oh, I can't find the sat phone," before performing an actually kind of impressive draw. And nearly headshotting Min Young instantly. She doesn't get hit, instead starting the truck and smacking him onto the ground with the rear end. Meanwhile, the soldiers inside take way too long to notice the gunshots ringing out, until they're on the receiving end. Complacency kills. Young So enters the inner compound, guns blazing, drawing in both infected from the outside and alerting everyone inside to his presence. Meanwhile, Chol Min is doing his best to not get got, as one of the last remaining fighters in the ring. Just as he's about to become Hunter Chow, Young So comes in clutch with the headshot. Okay, that is your cue to start GTFOing. Instead of staying near any kind of cover or right below the enemy soldiers, Young So again walks into the middle of a zombie-infested, enclosed area with bad guys and zombies on all sides. Dude, just use your ranged weapon to pick the zombies off from afar, as well as suppress or kill the enemy soldiers. You know they're just gonna go get their weapons and return fire, right? You see that they outnumber you, right? If you already have the element of surprise, then use it. He covers the arena in smoke while Huang just stupidly asks where he went.
야,
Instead of, I don't know, just all collectively mag dumping into the cloud of smoke, Young So shoots a flare into the compound, sending the zombies dashing towards those inside, causing a mass panic. It also creates perfect cover in the form of chaos for them to slip out undetected. And Chaos was right. Inside the compound, people are getting ripped to shreds in record time. Full-on Outbreak 2.0. Young So guides his brother-in-law through the horde, moving and shooting as you should, before finding themselves cornered between zombies and enemies. All you can really do here is just pop another smoke grenade, get your rifle, and keep moving. Concealment, suppressive fire in short 2 to 3 round intervals while breaking contact. That's the play. Move from cover to cover once out of concealment. Depending on your ammo status, keep the enemy suppressed as best as you can. Unfortunately, they stay put for way too long, causing the situation to get more dire by the second. Young So gets separated from his rifle as he fights off a zombie at point-blank range, while Unit 631 moves in tight formation. See how close they're standing to each other there? That's why frag grenades exist. Seriously, one M67 and Unit 631 goes bye-bye. Shulman has a reverse Appa moment and fights through his fear. He grabs Young So's M4 and hip sprays a burst of surprisingly accurate rounds into the advancing soldiers before tossing it over to him. Unfortunately, this gives Wong a clean shot, dropping Shulman for good right in front of Young So. The scene's absolutely gut-wrenching, even though I will acknowledge I did initially want him left behind. He's with his wife and son now, Young So. You need to keep going. Make his sacrifice worth it. He got his redemption arc. Now you need to go get yours. Shout out here to this character. Shulman went from being a nobody who couldn't do shit to a zombie fighting champion in the ring. He laid down his life for Young So, in spite of him being absolutely terrified and untrained. Understandably, losing the last of his family, Young So was not about to let this go. I really wish I could say I'd have the mental fortitude to just let this happen and leave, but considering Unit 631 hasn't got the slightest clue on how to effectively form up and maintain dispersion, I'm giving this one the pass. Light them the f*** up, Young So, for Shulman. He gives John Wick a run for his money, taking on the entire group of soldiers and absolutely obliterating them. Only Wong poses a legitimate threat, but just as he's about to go for the money shot, Min Young drives into the wall with a truck for extraction. Of course, this wouldn't be Young So if he didn't take his mandatory 10-second standing eyes open power nap before taking any actions of any kind. Move, you idiot. He manages to snap out of it and hops in. They drive away while Wong orders his men to give chase immediately. So misses the truck, since obviously the duo couldn't care less about anyone from Unit 631, and immediately takes out his frustration on poor Private Kim. While the team makes their getaway, we see that Wong is very much occupied with the horde of zombies inside the compound. This should give us a pretty serious head start, which realistically would make all the difference, especially once they lose sight of us, like I mentioned in my Your Heroes Will Get Lost video. Urban environments are mazes. Young So and Min Young clash with a horde of zombies who cut off their route. They start wildly shooting at the horde, but why? Pop these cars all around you to set off the car alarms. You know that works, and you've done this already earlier in the movie. Bonus points if you shoot a car further away from you, since it'll draw in the bad guys too. Luckily, the Fast and the Furious are here. Good, now pop some cars to lead Unit 631 astray and distract the zombies. Then GTFO. They plow through the zombies when Grandpa Kim ignites the fuse on some fireworks to give the zombies something to chase. Smart, but this would have been infinitely more useful if utilized during our compound infiltration. Even this on those RC cars would likely be a super successful distraction. Bro, be happy they didn't listen to you. They saved you First of all, you two clearly seem to have forgotten any of the things that you have at your disposal to get rid of that horde. Oh, and also, when exactly were you planning to go back for them? Seems to me like once you had the truck, you booked it for Inchin. Didn't see you going around looking for your kids to rendezvous, nor did you have any comms with them. Sounds to me like you're just mad your offspring didn't let you manipulate them into ending your bloodline prematurely. Huang's crew, due to the flares giving away their general location and them being forced to stop to deal with the horde, has managed to catch up to them. We get treated to what I can only describe as literal Korean Mad Max.
Witness me bloody!
Even the kids are in on this. Unit 631 stops toying with them and starts going for some kills, albeit in nowhere near the most efficient way. And this, whatever the hell this is supposed to be. The Fast and the Furious Peninsula Drift? Whatever, it works, I guess. Frustrated that he's getting his handed to him despite overwhelmingly better odds, Wong orders his crew to enable some enormous floodlights to bring in as many infected as possible. You do realize those zombies are gonna want you too, right? It definitely spices up the car chase scene, that's for sure. Also, doesn't hurt that Young So is some kind of Navy SEAL marksman elite god in terms of accuracy. Dude's in a fast-moving vehicle, bumping up and down on absolutely derelict old roads, and manages to hit these searchlights on the first attempt, twice, while just casually hanging out the window. I'm not even gonna try to find logic in this scene, because, I mean, look at it. Yeah, that's totally how that works. Zombies even start throwing themselves off roofs and bridges onto the cars, because why not? Young So gets a smart idea as they drive past the station from earlier. He releases the zombies from behind the glass onto Unit 631 as they pass by it. Which, of course, cracks and breaks exactly as they pass it a few seconds later. Not before and not after. This releases a tidal wave of zombies onto their now stuck car. Surrounded with no escape, the zombies eventually crack the lunchbox on wheels. That's for chill men. Young So calls the gangsters to pick them up near the port, as their tail's clear now.
We arrive at Incheon port in 15 minutes.
Shortly thereafter, the group arrives at the Incheon port and spots their ride out, just as Captain So makes his comeback and T-bones the girl's car. He holds Junie at gunpoint, forcing the others to drop their weapons. I don't really get the point of this. Why couldn't he just include himself in the extraction? I highly doubt anyone, even Young So and Min Young, would actually give a damn. He wasn't Wong, he just wanted out. He could have just offered himself up, disarmed, hands in the air, saying he just wants out. Now that he's held them at gunpoint and threatened them, they're just gonna want you dead. Think so. Think. Yujin uses the RC car to distract him. This him off so much for some reason that he wants to shoot a freaking child. He ultimately hits Old Man Kim instead, who shields his granddaughter with his own body before dropping. Min Young uses the opportunity to pick up her rifle, but takes a round to the thigh before she can shoulder it to shoot So. Young So grabs his M4 and immediately begins firing at him, who takes off in their truck. How none of these shots actually hit So, I can't understand. 556 would absolutely rip through the cabin of that truck like it was nothing. We even see Young So shooting several rounds point blank into the driver's side door, which would realistically all hit So, putting him down for good. Instead, So just gets to drive off into the sunset here, making it onto the boat before the infected can reach them. Unfortunately, the gangster doesn't appreciate that it's not Young So showing up to finish the job. Right before he's about to meet his maker, So decides to screw the gangsters over for double-crossing him with one final act, kicking the truck into reverse and ramming it into the currently closing ramp hatch, preventing closure and allowing zombies to come pouring in. Ah, yes. nature is healing. Unfortunately, this leaves our squad stranded now, without exfil, surrounded by zombies. Speaking of our squad, Old Man Kim dies surrounded by his loved ones, thanking them for being with him. With his last breath, he tells them how sorry he is for making them live in this world. The motivations behind these characters' actions when they lay down their lives for their families are honestly indisputably pure. In a situation where they could choose to die for someone they love rather than watch that person die instead, they choose the selfless path without hesitation. We can only hope to be lucky enough to have a Kim around if we ever find ourselves in a similar situation. Just when all hope seems lost, and Young So visibly doesn't even have a clue what his next play could possibly be, they're finally thrown a bone. Realizing this is the extraction Old Man Kim was talking about, they immediately pull out all the remaining flares to signal to Chinook. Min Young makes Young So promise he'll take the girls with him, no matter what, because he owes them his life. She plans to stay behind as she can't walk, and hold off as much of the horde as she can to improve their odds of escape. It's a tough call, but unless we can get to a safe LZ with relative ease, or this Chinook is carrying some serious man and firepower, this is pretty much the only way that we don't get overrun. Though I'd still opt to at least try the car alarm tactic one more time before we just accept a team member's death. Min Young thanks her father for doing what needs to be done. They all start running towards the chopper with zombies absolutely everywhere. Min Young starts falling behind pretty quickly and begins putting down as many as she possibly can, while Young So takes her daughters and bolts to the chopper. Her plan works, but she's quickly overrun and forced to fall back to the cabin of a nearby truck. There's zombies clawing at her from every direction as she pulls in the horde with the horn, which for some reason works on this truck with the presumably dead battery. At the chopper, they meet Major Jane, who Old Man Kim was actually in contact with this whole time. Guess he wasn't crazy after all. The UN troops won't entertain the idea of saving Min Young, which is understandable given they've only got a handful of soldiers with him. This makes Junie pull Major Jane's piece from her holster and try to force her to go save Min Young.
You must wait!
Bold move, and way less likely to work out than you think. The UN soldiers don't immediately drop her for this serious act of aggression, and instead try to hold her back as she screams for her mother. Min Young, in the cabin of the truck, debates putting herself down so her family won't keep waiting around for her. Every key scene in this movie is absolutely filled to the brim with people who cannot make decisions and just sort of stand in place. Major Jane tries to reason with Junie that her mother made a sensible decision, prompting Young So to think back to Chulman's words about how he didn't even try to save his family.
상식 같은 소리 하고 있네. 뭐 시도는 해봤냐?
He realizes his brother-in-law was right, and he had given up on life itself, so he decides to try his best for these girls with officially nothing left to lose. He takes off running towards Min Young while shooting in the air, snapping her out of her near self-deletion and pushing her into overdrive instead. She manages to break free from the truck after emptying the rifle, fighting back zombies at melee range as she limps over to her family and the UN team. Young So keeps up covering fire, putting down as many zombies as he can, as well as deploying a smoke grenade to help conceal their exfil. Oh, now you suddenly remember your training? Punk. They fight their way back slowly, inch by inch, using car doors to hold back the zombies as a sort of barrier, while the UN guys just kind of watch for the most part, really. I don't even think I saw a single UN soldier even do as much as fire a single round for cover or suppression, further proving UN peacekeepers are totally useless in almost every armed conflict. Min Young makes it back to her kids. Miraculously, Young So makes it out too. They leave the peninsula receiving medical attention aboard the chopper.
Don't worry, she'll be okay.
The movie ends. In the end, of our original protagonists, only Young So, Min Young, and her two daughters managed to make it out alive. The two crew members we had with us during the initial excursion were just unlucky to be overrun by zombies and to encounter Sergeant Huang and particularly bad mood. Shulman could have saved himself, but chose to sacrifice himself for his brother-in-law in an act of heroism. Old Man Kim could have also saved himself, but chose to save his granddaughter instead, as his dying wish was to get them out of the hell that they were living in. These two could have very well survived, but instead went out as heroes. However, let's not negate the fact that with proper prep time, better equipment, and slightly better planning, or Young So just not forgetting his entire training, this whole op could have been conducted far more efficiently. For this reason, I think Peninsula was beaten. Moral of the story, don't just stand around watching people die. We've had a lot of movies come up as suggestions in the comments over the years. We want to try and gauge the appetite for certain movies, so go to the link in the description and feel free to suggest or vote on movies that you'd like us to cover. We'll try to review these every week, in addition to our own picks, to create the content that you guys want to see more of.